The photograph slipped from Lily's trembling fingers and clattered onto the marble floor of the mansion. Her voice came out as barely a whisper, but it cut through the air like a knife. "Why is my mom's photo in your mansion?" Alexander Hunt, the billionaire tech mogul, froze mid-step. His coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. For a man who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals without flinching, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. His face drained of all color. The cup slipped from his hand, shattering across the pristine white floor, coffee spreading like dark fingers reaching for answers. That's impossible," he stammered, his eyes locked on the silver-framed photograph sitting on his mantelpiece. The same photograph the 12-year-old girl in worn-out sneakers was pointing at, with a shaking hand. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd only come here to deliver flowers with her grandmother. They weren't supposed to enter the mansion. They were supposed to leave the bouquet at the gate like always. But the guard was distracted. The gate was open, and Lily had chased after her grandmother's scarf when the wind snatched it away. She'd followed it right through the front door that someone had left ajar. And now, she stood in a stranger's mansion, staring at a photograph of a woman who looked exactly like the mother she'd never met. The mother who'd died when Lily was just 2 years old. The mother she only knew from one faded photograph her grandmother kept hidden in a shoebox under her bed. But how could the same woman be in this billionaire's house? Alexander took 3 steps toward the mantelpiece, his expensive shoes crunching on broken porcelain. He picked up the frame with both hands, like it was made of butterfly wings. His fingers traced the glass surface. "Where did you see this photo before?" His voice cracked. "That's my mom." Lily's words came out stronger now, pushed by a surge of anger. "My grandmother has the exact same picture. Who are you? Why do you have her photo?" Before Alexander could answer, the mansion's grand doors burst open. Lily's grandmother, Rosa, stumbled in, out of breath from running. Her weathered hands clutched her chest. When she saw Lily standing in the foyer, relief flooded her face. But then her eyes traveled to Alexander, to the photograph he was holding, and something changed. The relief transformed into pure terror. "Lily, get away from him right now!" Rosa's voice was sharp, desperate. But Lily didn't move. She couldn't. Because she'd just noticed something else. On the wall behind Alexander, there was a larger portrait. And in that portrait, Alexander stood next to the same woman from the photograph. They were both younger, both smiling, both wearing wedding rings that caught the painted sunlight. "Grandma," Lily whispered, her mind spinning. "Grandma, why is my mom in a wedding portrait with him?" The color drained from Rosa's face just like it had from Alexander's moments before. The old woman swayed on her feet, gripping the doorframe for support. Alexander turned to look at the portrait, then back at Lily. Really look at her this time? His eyes traced her face like he was seeing it for the first time. The shape of her nose, the curve of her eyebrows, the exact shade of her brown eyes. "How old are you?" he asked quietly. 12. I just turned 12 last month." Alexander did the math in his head. His lips moved silently. His face transformed through a dozen emotions in seconds: confusion, realization, shock, and something that looked like pain mixed with wonder. "Emily disappeared 13 years ago," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "She was pregnant, 3 months pregnant. She vanished without a trace. The police searched everywhere. I spent millions on private investigators. They found nothing. It was like she'd evaporated into thin air." Lily's world tilted sideways. "Pregnant? My mom was pregnant when she what?" Alexander stepped closer, his voice urgent now. "What happened to Emily? Please, I've been searching for 13 years. "I've never stopped searching." Rosa finally found her voice. "Stay away from my granddaughter." She rushed forward, positioning herself between Lily and Alexander. "You have no right at all. I have every right if she's my—" Alexander stopped, unable to finish the sentence. His hands were shaking now. "Is she? Is Lily my daughter?" The question hung in the air like smoke. No one breathed. No one moved. Lily's mind raced back through every story her grandmother had ever told her about her mother. Sweet, kind Emily, who'd loved painting and always helped others. Emily who'd died in a car accident when Lily was too young to remember. Emily who'd been alone, working as a waitress, struggling to make ends meet. But this man, this billionaire, was saying her mother had been his wife, that she'd been pregnant with his child, that she'd disappeared. Nothing made sense. Everything was a lie. Or was it? Answer me, Alexander's voice boomed through the mansion, making both Lily and Rosa jump. Is Lily my daughter? Rosa's eyes filled with tears, her lips pressed into a thin line. She looked at Lily, then at Alexander, then back at Lily. Grandma? Lily's voice was small now, frightened. Grandma, what's he talking about? Mom died in a car accident. You told me she died in a car accident. You told me my father had abandoned us. You said he was a bad man who didn't want me. I did what I had to do to protect you, Rosa whispered. You don't understand what he's capable of. What his family is capable of. Then make me understand, Lily shouted, surprising herself with the force of her own voice. Make me understand why you lied to me. Make me understand why there's a picture of my mom in this mansion. Make me understand why this man thinks he's my father. Alexander pulled out his phone with shaking hands. I can prove it. I have pictures, videos, our wedding album, Emily's things. I kept everything. I couldn't throw anything away. I always hoped, his voice broke, I always hoped she'd come back. He scrolled frantically, then held out the phone. On the screen was a video. A young woman with Lily's exact eyes laughed at the camera, her hand resting on a small baby bump. She was sitting in what looked like a garden, sunlight filtering through trees. Tell him, Emily, a younger Alexander's voice came from behind the camera. Tell him what we're going to name her if she's a girl. The woman on the screen smiled wider. Lily. We're going to name her Lily, after the flowers in my grandmother's garden, the flowers that grew even in the darkest corners, even when everyone said nothing could grow there. The phone slipped from Alexander's hand. He stared at the real Lily standing in front of him, this flesh and blood girl with her mother's eyes and his own stubborn chin. You're alive, he whispered. You're real. You're here. Lily couldn't process what was happening. The room spun. Her grandmother had lied about everything. This stranger might be her father. Her mother hadn't died in a car accident at all. She'd vanished while pregnant, running from what? Why did she run? Lily asked, her voice breaking. If you loved her like you say you did, why did my mom run away from you? Why would she disappear when she was going to have me? Alexander opened his mouth to answer. But before he could speak, a new voice cut through the tension. Because I made sure she understood she wasn't welcome in this family. Everyone turned toward the grand staircase. A tall, elegant woman descended the steps, her designer heels clicking against marble. She wore pearls and a cold smile. Everything about her screamed old money and power. Alexander's face hardened. Mother, what are you doing here? I live here, darling, remember? The woman's eyes swept over Lily with undisguised distaste. Though I see we have a little pest problem that needs addressing. Lily felt Rosa's hands grip her shoulders, pulling her back toward the door. But Alexander stepped between them and his mother. Don't you dare speak about her like that. If she's Emily's daughter, if she's my daughter, if... The older woman laughed, cold and sharp. Oh, Alexander, you always were too soft, too trusting. That girl was nothing but a gold-digging waitress who trapped you with a pregnancy lie. I did what any mother would do. I protected my son and our family's reputation. What did you do? Alexander's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Mother, what did you do to Emily? The woman examined her manicured nails. I simply made her an offer she couldn't refuse. $5 million to disappear and never contact you again. To terminate the pregnancy and vanish from our lives forever. The world stopped spinning. Time seemed to freeze. Lily couldn't breathe. This woman, this cruel, cold woman, had paid her mother to get rid of her, to erase her existence. And her mother had taken the money and run, but she'd kept Lily. She'd chosen to have her baby even though it meant losing everything. Alexander's face transformed into something Lily had never seen on another human being. pure rage mixed with devastation. You did what? His voice was barely audible. You paid Emily to... Oh, don't look at me like that. His mother waved a dismissive hand. She took the money, didn't she? That proves exactly what kind of person she was. If she really loved you, she would have stayed and fought. But no, she grabbed that check and disappeared within 24 hours. Rosa made a sound like a wounded animal. Tears streamed down her weathered face. Alexander turned to her, desperate. Is that true? Did Emily take money from my mother? Rosa's hands trembled. She did. But not for the reason you think. She didn't. A phone rang, cutting through the tension. Alexander's assistant burst through the side door, his face pale. Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call. It's the private investigator, the one you have searching for Emily Hunt. The assistant's eyes flickered to Lily, then away. He says it's critical. He says he's finally found something. Something about what really happened 13 years ago. Alexander grabbed the phone. His hand shook so badly he nearly dropped it. This is Hunt. Tell me. Everyone in the room held their breath. The only sound was the investigator's tinny voice through the speaker, too quiet for anyone but Alexander to hear clearly. As he listened, the blood drained from Alexander's face again. His knees buckled. He gripped the staircase railing to keep from falling. No, he whispered. No, that can't be right. Check again. You must have made a mistake. But the voice on the phone kept talking. Alexander's face transformed from shock to horror to something that looked like pure anguish. When he finally lowered the phone, his eyes were wet. He looked at Lily like his heart was breaking. Emily didn't just disappear, he said, his voice hollow. She's... He couldn't finish the sentence. His mother stepped forward, for once looking uncertain. Alexander? What did he find? But Alexander wasn't looking at his mother. He was staring at Rosa, whose face had gone from terrified to guilty. You knew, he said softly. You knew this whole time, didn't you? You knew exactly what happened to Emily. You knew where she went. You knew. His voice rose. You knew she was dying. The word echoed through the mansion like a gunshot. Dying. Lily's world collapsed around her. Her knees hit the marble floor. The cold seeped through her jeans, but she couldn't feel anything except the crushing weight on her chest. Grandma? Her voice was tiny, childlike. Grandma, what does he mean? But Rosa was already moving toward her, arms outstretched, tears flowing freely now. And that's when the mansion's main doors burst open for the third time. Two men in dark suits entered, followed by someone Lily had never expected to see. A woman with machines attached to her thin frame, being pushed in a wheelchair by a nurse. A woman with the same brown eyes as the photograph. A woman who looked like a ghost but was somehow, impossibly, real. A woman who looked directly at Lily and started crying. My baby, the woman whispered. My Lily. My beautiful Lily. The room erupted into chaos. Alexander stumbled backward, his hand over his mouth. His mother gasped, her perfect composure finally cracking. Rosa sobbed openly, falling to her knees. And Lily just stared at the woman in the wheelchair. The woman who was supposed to be dead. The woman who'd been gone for 12 years. The woman whose photograph had started this entire impossible day. Her mother was alive. Emily Hunt, pale, thin, and connected to an oxygen tank, reached out with a trembling hand toward Lily. The wheelchair's wheels squeaked against the marble as the nurse pushed her closer. Every eye in the mansion was locked on the woman who'd been declared missing for 13 years, the woman everyone thought had vanished into thin air, the woman who was somehow here, now, dying but alive. Don't touch her. Rosa scrambled to her feet, positioning herself between Emily and Lily like a human shield. You gave up that right when you took the money and left. Emily's hand dropped to her lap. Fresh tears carved paths down her hollow cheeks. Mama, please. I'm running out of time. The doctor said I have weeks, maybe days. I need to explain everything before... Her words dissolved into violent coughing. The nurse quickly adjusted her oxygen mask. Alexander found his voice, though it came out strangled and raw. You've been alive this whole time? 13 years, Emily. 13 years I searched for you. I hired every investigator, followed every lead, spent millions trying to find you. And you were alive? I had to disappear, Emily managed between shallow breaths. Your mother didn't just offer me money to leave, Alexander. She threatened me. She said if I didn't take the 5 million and vanish, she'd make sure I never saw you again anyway. She had lawyers ready to prove I was unstable, that I'd tried to trap you, that I was after your fortune. She showed me documents, Alexander. Fake medical records claiming I had a history of mental illness. Fabricated testimonies from people I'd never met. She said she'd bury me in court and take my baby the moment she was born. Alexander whipped around to face his mother, who'd gone completely still. Mother, tell me she's lying. The older woman's jaw tightened. I did what was necessary to protect our family from a manipulative. She was my wife. Alexander's roar shook the chandelier. She was carrying my child. How could you? She was nobody. His mother's composure shattered like glass. A waitress from nowhere with no family, no education, no breeding. You were infatuated, not in love. I saved you from a disaster that would have destroyed everything our family built over generations. Emily's oxygen machine beeped urgently. The nurse checked the monitors, her expression worried. Mrs. Hunt, you need to stay calm. Your heart rate is… I don't care about my heart rate, Emily gasped. I've been dying for 3 years. I need my daughter to understand why I did what I did. She looked at Lily with desperate eyes. Baby, I took the money because I had no choice. Your grandmother and I, we had nothing. I was 23 years old, pregnant, and terrified. Alexander's mother showed me what she was capable of. She had power, connections, unlimited resources. I knew if I fought her, I'd lose you anyway, and I'd lose Alexander, and we'd all be destroyed in the process. Lily's voice came out flat, emotionless. So you ran away and let me grow up thinking my father didn't want me. You let me grow up poor, wearing secondhand clothes, eating food bank donations, watching grandma work 3 jobs just to keep us fed. You had $5 million and you let us struggle like that? The words hit Emily like physical blows. No, baby, no. You don't understand. I never got to keep that money. What? Alexander stepped closer. What do you mean you didn't keep it? Rosa's voice cracked as she finally spoke the truth. Because I made her give it away. Every single penny. The room went silent except for Emily's labored breathing and the steady beep of her medical equipment. You what? Alexander stared at Rosa like she'd grown a second head. Rosa's weathered face hardened with old anger. My daughter came to me that night 13 years ago, crying, pregnant, holding a check for $5 million from the woman who'd threatened to destroy her life. She wanted to keep it. She said it was compensation for what she'd been through, that it would give her baby a good life. But I told her no. I told her that money was poisoned. I told her that if she kept even $1 of it, she'd be proving that horrible woman right, that she was exactly the gold digger they accused her of being. Emily's tears flowed faster. Mama told me that if I truly loved Alexander, if I truly wanted what was best for my baby, I had to prove I wasn't after the Hunt family fortune. So I donated every penny. $5 million split between children's hospitals, homeless shelters, and cancer research. I kept the receipts to prove I'd never touched it for myself. Alexander's legs gave out. He sank onto the bottom step of the staircase, his head in his hands. You gave it all away? You were pregnant, alone, and you gave away $5 million? I thought it would prove I loved you, Emily whispered. I thought maybe someday, when your mother saw I'd never kept the money, she'd understand she was wrong about me. I thought maybe you'd find out and come looking for me. But you never did. Because I never knew. Alexander looked up, his face ravaged. My mother told me you'd taken the money and disappeared. She showed me bank statements proving the check had been cashed. She said you'd probably gotten an abortion and were living somewhere tropical on my family's money. I believed her. God help me, I believed her. His mother's face remained stone cold. She still left. Money or no money, she still chose to walk away from you. Because you gave her no choice. Alexander surged to his feet. You manipulated a pregnant 23-year-old girl with threats and lawyers and fabricated evidence. You made her believe she'd lose everything if she stayed. And then you lied to me about what happened so I'd hate her instead of searching for her. Lily's mind spun with information overload. Her mother had been rich for exactly 1 day before giving it all away. Her grandmother had made her give it away. They'd lived in poverty while Emily's donated millions helped strangers. And all of it because Alexander's mother had decided Emily wasn't good enough for their family. "Why didn't you come back?" Lily asked, her voice small. "If you gave away the money, if you proved you weren't after their fortune, why didn't you come back and tell him?" Emily's face crumpled. "Because 3 months after you were born, I found the first lump. Stage 3 breast cancer. I was 24 years old with a newborn baby and no health insurance. The treatments cost everything we had. Your grandmother worked herself to exhaustion paying for my chemotherapy. We lost our apartment. We moved 6 times in 2 years, always to cheaper places, always struggling. I went into remission when you were 3, and I wanted to contact Alexander then, but I was terrified." "Terrified of what?" Alexander asked softly. "Terrified that his mother would use my cancer against me in court. That she'd claim I was dying and unfit to raise Lily. That she'd take my baby away from me when I'd already lost so much. And I was right to be scared because the cancer came back when Lily was 6, and again when she was 9. And now—" Emily's voice broke completely. "Now it's in my bones, my lungs, my liver. The doctors say there's nothing more they can do. I have stage 4 cancer and maybe 3 weeks to live." The beeping from Emily's machine grew more urgent. The nurse moved quickly, adjusting tubes and checking vitals. "Mrs. Hunt, please, you're overexerting yourself. Your body can't handle this stress." But Emily ignored her, eyes locked on Lily. "I know I failed you, baby. I know you grew up without the life you deserved. But I need you to understand that every single day, every single moment, I loved you more than anything in this world. Every time I was too sick to attend your school events, every time we couldn't afford new clothes or toys, every time I saw you pretend you weren't hungry so your grandmother and I could eat. It broke my heart into smaller and smaller pieces." Lily felt something crack inside her chest. All those years she'd been angry at a father who'd abandoned her. All those nights she'd cried herself to sleep, wondering why she wasn't good enough for him to stay. All those moments she'd felt unwanted and unloved. They'd all been based on lies. "I'm sorry," Lily whispered. "I'm sorry I was angry at you. I'm sorry I thought you died in a car accident. I'm sorry I didn't know you were sick. I'm sorry." Her voice broke, and suddenly she was running, crossing the marble floor, falling to her knees beside the wheelchair, burying her face in her mother's lap. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." Emily's thin arms wrapped around her daughter for the first time in weeks, for one of the last times ever. She stroked Lily's hair with trembling fingers. "You have nothing to be sorry for, baby. Nothing at all. You're the best thing I ever did with my life. You're my miracle." Alexander watched them, tears streaming down his face. He'd lost 13 years with his daughter. 13 years of first steps and first words and first days of school. 13 birthdays, 13 Christmases, 13 years of bedtime stories and scraped knees and homework help. All stolen by his mother's cruelty and pride. He turned to face the woman who'd raised him. "Get out!" His mother blinked. "Excuse me?" "Get out of my house. Get out of my life. You're no longer welcome in any property I own, any business I run, any space I occupy. You stole my family from me. You threatened an innocent woman. You lied to me for 13 years while I mourned a wife I thought had betrayed me. You're dead to me. Alexander, don't be dramatic. I'm your mother. You stopped being my mother the moment you decided your pride was worth more than my happiness. You chose the Hunt family reputation over your own son's heart. That's not love. That's control. And I'm done being controlled." He pulled out his phone. "Security will escort you out. You have 1 hour to collect your personal belongings. Everything else stays here. And if you try to fight me on this, if you try to use your lawyers or your connections or your money to hurt Emily or Lily or Rosa one more time, I will dedicate every resource I have to exposing exactly what you did. I'll tell the world how you blackmailed and threatened a pregnant woman. I'll show them the fake medical records you fabricated. I'll destroy the precious Hunt family reputation you care about so much that there won't be anything left but ashes." His mother's face cycled through shock, rage, and finally cold calculation. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not standing up to you 13 years ago. Alexander's voice was steel. Now get out before I have you physically removed. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Alexander's mother straightened her pearls, lifted her chin, and walked toward the door with the same cold dignity she'd descended the stairs with. But as she passed Emily's wheelchair, she paused. You still weren't good enough for him, she hissed. Look at you, dying, poor, broken. You should have taken the money and gotten that abortion like I suggested. At least then you'd have lived. Emily met her eyes without flinching. I'd rather die having loved Alexander and raised Lily than live 100 years as someone like you, someone who measures worth in dollar signs and bloodlines. I won, and you lost. Because I got 12 years with the most beautiful daughter in the world, and you just lost your only son. I'd say I came out ahead. The older woman's composure finally cracked completely. Her face twisted with rage and something that might have been pain. Then she turned and walked out, her heels clicking against marble one final time before the heavy doors closed behind her. The silence that followed felt thick enough to touch. Alexander's assistant quietly slipped away, taking the security team with him to handle the situation. The nurse continued monitoring Emily's vitals, her expression professionally neutral but her eyes kind. Rosa finally moved from where she'd been standing frozen. She approached Alexander slowly, like approaching a wild animal. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting my daughter and granddaughter. I thought keeping you away was the right thing to do. Alexander looked at her, this tired old woman who'd worked 3 jobs to keep her family fed, who'd sacrificed everything for a daughter and granddaughter she loved. You were protecting them from my mother, not from me. I understand that now. But Rosa, you should have told me. The moment Emily got sick, the moment she went into remission, any of the moments in between, you should have found a way to tell me I had a daughter. I know, Rosa whispered. I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life, but I was scared. Scared of losing Lily to a family that had unlimited resources and power. Scared that Emily's cancer would be used as evidence she was an unfit mother. Scared that one day I'd lose both of them. She wiped her eyes. I made the wrong choice. I know that now. Emily's coughing fit returned, more violent this time. The nurse moved swiftly, adjusting the oxygen flow, checking the medication bags attached to the IV pole. Mrs. Hunt, your body is shutting down. We need to get you back to the hospice facility. You need proper medical equipment and… No. Emily's voice was weak but firm. No more hospitals, no more facilities. I've spent 3 years in and out of medical buildings. I want to spend my last days with my daughter, with my family. You can stay here. Alexander's voice was rough with emotion. Both of you, all 3 of you. This mansion has 20 bedrooms and a full medical suite on the 3rd floor. I'll hire round-the-clock nurses, the best doctors, whatever you need. You don't have to be alone anymore, Emily. None of you do. Rosa opened her mouth, probably to protest, to maintain the independence she'd fought so hard to preserve. But then she looked at Lily's face, still pressed against Emily's lap, and the fight went out of her. Okay, she said softly. Okay, we'll stay. The next few hours passed in a blur. Alexander's staff transformed one of the main floor guest suites into a proper medical room with hospital equipment, monitors, and comfortable furniture. Doctors arrived to assess Emily's condition and adjust her medication. Rosa and Lily's few belongings were collected from their tiny apartment across town. It didn't take long. They didn't own much. Lily wandered through the mansion in a daze, her mind struggling to process everything that had happened in one impossible day. This morning she'd been a poor girl who delivered flowers with her grandmother. Now she was the daughter of a billionaire, living in a mansion, with a dying mother she'd thought was already dead. She found Alexander in what appeared to be his office, sitting at an enormous desk covered in papers and photographs. He was holding a picture of a much younger Emily, taken on what looked like their wedding day. His thumb traced the glass, gentle as a prayer. "Can I come in?" Lily asked from the doorway. Alexander's head snapped up. He quickly wiped his eyes and nodded. "Of course." This is your home now. You can go anywhere you want. Lily entered slowly, taking in the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, the massive windows overlooking gardens she hadn't known existed, the comfortable leather chairs. She sat in one, her feet not quite touching the floor. Are you really my father? The question came out small and uncertain. Alexander's face softened. I think so, yes. But if you want, we can do a DNA test to be absolutely certain, whatever makes you comfortable. Did you really love my mom? More than anything in the world, Alexander said without hesitation. I met her at a coffee shop where she worked. She was the most beautiful person I'd ever seen, not just in looks, but in the way she treated everyone around her. She remembered regular customers' names and orders. She helped elderly patrons carry their trays. She left encouraging notes in the tip jar for her coworkers. I came back every single day for 3 months just to talk to her for 5 minutes while she made my coffee. Despite everything, Lily felt a small smile tug at her lips. What happened? Finally, I worked up the courage to ask her on a real date. She said yes, but only if I stopped ordering the most complicated drinks on the menu just to have more time to talk to her. Alexander laughed, the sound watery. We were married 6 months later. My mother was furious. She said I was moving too fast, that Emily was after my money, that I'd regret it. But I'd never been more certain of anything in my life. And then I happened, Lily said quietly. And then you happened, Alexander agreed. Emily called me at work one day, crying happy tears, telling me we were going to be parents. I left a board meeting in the middle of a presentation and drove straight home. We spent the whole night planning your future, picking out names, arguing about whether your nursery should be yellow or green. We were so happy, Lily. So unbelievably happy. Until your mother ruined everything. Alexander's jaw tightened. Yes. Until my mother decided her vision of what my life should be was more important than my actual happiness. But that ends now. You're my daughter, and I will spend every day for the rest of my life making up for the 13 years I missed. Lily wanted to believe him. Part of her desperately wanted to trust this man who'd loved her mother, who'd searched for 13 years, who'd thrown his own mother out of the house to protect them. But another part of her, the part that had grown up poor and afraid, wondered if this was all too good to be true. What if you change your mind? She asked, voicing her deepest fear. What if you decide I'm not good enough either? What if I mess up or disappoint you or... Lily. Alexander left his desk and knelt in front of her chair, bringing himself to eye level. Look at me. Really look at me. Do you see someone who's going to abandon you? Lily studied his face. She saw her own eyes looking back at her. She saw the stubborn set of his jaw that matched hers. She saw tears he wasn't bothering to hide. She saw 13 years of grief and loss and desperate searching. No, she whispered. I don't think you will. I won't. I promise you, Lily, I will never leave you. I will never choose anything or anyone over you. You're my daughter, and that means you're stuck with me forever. He managed a small smile. Even when you're a teenager and you hate me, even when you make mistakes, even when life gets hard, I will be right here. That's what fathers do. Lily launched herself out of the chair and into his arms. Alexander caught her, holding tight. And for the first time in her life, Lily felt what it was like to be hugged by her father. They stayed like that for a long time, both crying, both grieving the years they'd lost while trying to be grateful for the time they'd found. Eventually, Rosa appeared in the doorway. Lily, honey, your mother is asking for you. Lily pulled back, wiping her face. Alexander did the same, standing and offering his hand. Let's go see her together. The three of them walked back to Emily's room. This strange new family figuring out how to exist in the same space after 13 years apart. Emily was propped up on pillows, oxygen mask in place, but she smiled when they entered. My whole family, she breathed. Together at last. Alexander sat on one side of the bed, Lily on the other, Rosa in a chair nearby. Emily reached for both Lily's and Alexander's hands, holding them with what little strength she had left. I need to tell you both something important, Emily said, her voice muffled by the mask. The nurse helped adjust it so she could speak more clearly. I know my time is short. The doctors have been honest with me. I have days, not weeks, and I need to make sure you both understand what I want for Lily's future. Mom, don't, Lily started, but Emily squeezed her hand. I have to, baby. I have to make sure you're taken care of. Alexander, I need you to promise me something. Anything, he said immediately. Don't try to make her into something she's not. Don't let your world change who she is at her core. Lily is kind, empathetic, and strong because she's seen what real struggle looks like. She knows what it means to have nothing but still share what little you have. That's more valuable than any amount of money or social status. I promise, Alexander said, his voice thick. I'll make sure she never forgets where she came from or what you taught her. Emily turned to Lily. And you, my beautiful girl, you need to promise me something too. Promise me you'll let yourself be happy. Let yourself accept this new life, this new family. Don't feel guilty for having opportunities I couldn't give you. I want you to have everything: education, experiences, love, security. That's what I wanted from the moment I knew you existed. I promise, Mom. Lily was crying again. But I wish you could be here to see it. I wish you could stay. I wish that too, baby. But I'm so grateful I got these last few weeks with you. I got to see the incredible person you've become. I got to meet Alexander again and see that he never stopped loving me. I got to know that when I'm gone, you'll be safe and loved and taken care of. That's all a mother can ask for. The heart monitor beeped steadily in the background. Emily's breathing was labored even with the oxygen. But she was smiling, genuinely smiling, for the first time in what looked like years. They spent the rest of the evening together, sharing stories. Emily told Lily about her romance with Alexander, about their secret dates and whispered dreams. Alexander told Lily about her mother's love of painting, how she'd decorated their entire apartment with canvases of flowers and landscapes. Rosa shared memories of Emily as a little girl, her kindness even then, her innate ability to see the good in everyone. As night fell, Emily grew more tired. Her words came slower, her breath more shallow. The nurse increased her morphine for the pain, and Emily drifted in and out of consciousness. Around midnight, Alexander insisted Lily try to sleep. She'd been awake for nearly 20 hours, running on adrenaline and emotion. He walked her to the bedroom they'd prepared for her, a space bigger than her entire old apartment, with a massive bed and furniture that looked brand new. I can't sleep in here, Lily said, overwhelmed. It's too much. I'll break something, or it's yours, Alexander said gently. Everything in this house is yours. You don't have to be afraid of touching things or existing in your own space. You belong here, Lily. He tucked her in, something no one had done since she was very small. He kissed her forehead, turned on a nightlight, and left the door cracked open. But Lily couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with everything that had happened. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her mother's pale face, heard her labored breathing, felt the weight of all those years they'd lost. After an hour of tossing and turning, Lily gave up. She slipped out of bed and padded down the hallway in her borrowed pajamas. The mansion was quiet except for the hum of medical equipment and the soft voices of the night nurse checking Emily's vitals. She was heading back to her mother's room when she heard voices coming from Alexander's office. The door was slightly open, light spilling into the dark hallway. Don't care what it costs, Alexander was saying, his voice intense. There has to be something. Some experimental treatment, some trial program, some doctor somewhere who can help her. Mr. Hunt, another voice replied, one of the doctors they'd brought in earlier. I understand you want to save her, but Mrs. Hunt's cancer is terminal. It's spread too far. Her body is shutting down. Even if we could slow the progression, we're talking weeks at most, and those weeks would be filled with painful treatments that would destroy what little quality of life she has left. So I'm supposed to just watch her die? I just got her back. I just found my daughter. We're supposed to be a family. I'm sorry, Mr. Hunt. Sometimes all we can do is make sure our loved ones are comfortable and surrounded by the people they love. That's the greatest gift you can give her now. Lily heard the sound of something hitting a wall. Alexander's fist, probably. A long silence followed. How long? Alexander finally asked. How long does she have? Based on her current decline and vital signs, I'd estimate 3 to 5 days. Possibly less if her heart or lungs fail. The cancer in her bones is extremely advanced. The pain must be excruciating, though she's on enough morphine now that she shouldn't feel it. 3 to 5 days. Less than a week. Lily would have her mother for less than a week. She must have made some sound because suddenly Alexander was at the door, pulling it open. His face was ravaged with grief, eyes red and swollen. "Lily, what are you doing up?" "I couldn't sleep." She looked past him to the doctor, then back to Alexander. "Is it true? Does Mom only have a few more days?" Alexander looked like he wanted to lie, to protect her from the truth. But he'd promised honesty, and he was clearly determined to keep that promise. "Yes, I'm sorry, sweetheart. Yes, it's true." Lily nodded slowly, processing. "Then we can't waste time sleeping. We should be with her. Every minute we have left, we should be with her." Something in Alexander's expression crumbled and rebuilt itself into something stronger. He nodded. "You're absolutely right. Come on, let's go be with your mom." They walked back to Emily's room together. Rosa was already there, dozing in the chair beside the bed, her hand holding Emily's. Emily herself was sleeping, her chest rising and falling in shallow movements. Alexander pulled another chair close to the bed, and Lily climbed into his lap. They sat there in the quiet, watching Emily breathe, counting each breath like precious coins. Hours passed. Dawn broke. Emily woke briefly, smiled at seeing them all there, then drifted back to sleep. The nurses came and went, checking monitors, administering medication, speaking in soft, practiced tones. It was late morning when Emily woke again, more alert this time. She looked around the room at her family, her daughter, her love, her mother, and smiled. "Good morning," she whispered. "Good morning," they all echoed back. "I had the most wonderful dream," Emily said. "I dreamed that Lily grew up to be a doctor. She found a cure for cancer and saved millions of lives. She gave speeches about perseverance and hope. She was so happy, so fulfilled, so loved." Lily squeezed her mother's hand. "Maybe it wasn't a dream. Maybe it was the future." "Maybe," Emily agreed. "Promise me you'll do something important with your life, baby. Something that matters. Something that helps people." "I promise, Mom." Emily turned her gaze to Alexander. "And you, my love. Promise me you'll teach her about the world. Show her places I never got to take her. Give her experiences I could only dream about. But most importantly, teach her that money and power mean nothing if you don't have kindness in your heart." "I promise, Emily. I'll make sure she never forgets that." "Mama," Emily looked at Rosa. "Thank you. Thank you for sacrificing everything to give Lily and me a life. Thank you for working yourself to exhaustion for us. Thank you for making me give back that money, even though it would have made everything easier. You taught me integrity. You taught me strength. You taught me that being rich in love is worth more than being rich in money." Rosa was crying too hard to speak. She just nodded, clutching Emily's hand. Emily closed her eyes, looking peaceful. "I can rest now. I can finally rest knowing my baby will be okay. That's all I ever wanted." The monitors beeped steadily. Emily's breathing evened out. For a moment, it seemed like she was just sleeping. But then Lily noticed something wrong. The spaces between Emily's breaths were getting longer. The rise and fall of her chest was becoming less pronounced. "Mom?" Lily said softly. "Mom, are you okay?" Emily's eyes fluttered open one last time. She looked directly at Lily, and her lips moved, forming words that came out barely louder than a breath. "I love you, my Lily. My beautiful, perfect Lily. You made my life worth living." And then her eyes closed. Her chest stopped moving. The steady beep of the heart monitor changed to a long, continuous tone. The nurses rushed in, but Alexander raised his hand, stopping them. "No, let her go. She's suffered enough." One of the nurses gently turned off the monitor, ending that terrible sound. The sudden silence was deafening. Emily Hunt, age 36, had died surrounded by the family she'd sacrificed everything to protect. She'd lived her last days in the mansion she'd been forced to leave 13 years ago. She'd died knowing her daughter would be loved and cared for. She'd died at peace. Lily sat frozen in Alexander's lap, staring at her mother's still face. It didn't seem real. It didn't seem possible that someone could be alive and smiling one moment and gone the next. "Mom?" she whispered. "Mom, wake up. Please wake up." But Emily didn't wake up. She would never wake up again. Rosa made a sound like her soul was breaking. She collapsed over Emily's body, sobbing, repeating, my baby," over and over. Alexander held Lily tighter, his own tears soaking into her hair. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." And Lily finally understood what it meant to lose someone. Not the abstract loss she'd felt growing up, thinking her mother had died when she was 2, but the real, visceral, devastating loss of watching someone you love slip away while you're powerless to stop it. She cried. She cried like she'd never cried before, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. She cried for her mother, for the years they'd lost, for the future they'd never have. She cried for Alexander, who'd just gotten his wife back only to lose her immediately. She cried for Rosa, who'd just lost her only child. She cried until she had no tears left, until her throat was raw, until exhaustion dragged her into a dark, dreamless sleep right there in Alexander's arms. When she woke hours later, she was back in her bedroom. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows. For a brief, beautiful moment, she forgot everything that had happened. She thought maybe it had all been a dream. Then she heard the voices downstairs, the funeral director speaking in low, professional tones, Rosa's quiet crying, Alexander's tired responses to questions about services and arrangements. It hadn't been a dream. Her mother was really gone. Lily stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how to exist in a world without Emily Hunt. How was she supposed to go on? How was she supposed to be happy when the person who'd loved her most in the world was gone? A soft knock came at her door. Alexander entered, looking 10 years older than he had yesterday. "Hey, sweetheart, how are you feeling?" It was such an absurd question that Lily almost laughed. How was she feeling? Her mother had just died. How was she supposed to feel? But she could see in Alexander's face that he was struggling just as much. He'd lost the love of his life. Again. Permanently this time. "I don't know," Lily answered honestly. "I feel empty, like someone scooped out my insides and left nothing but a hollow shell." Alexander sat on the edge of her bed. "I know exactly what you mean. I felt that way 13 years ago when Emily disappeared. And now, I'm feeling it again. Only worse because I know she's never coming back." They sat in shared silence for a moment. "What happens now?" Lily asked. "Now we plan a funeral, we say goodbye, and then we figure out how to keep living because that's what your mother would want. She didn't sacrifice everything just for us to give up now." "I don't know how to be your daughter," Lily admitted. "I don't know how to live here, how to be rich, how to fit into your world. I don't even know what to call you. Call me Alexander for now if that feels right. Or Dad, if you want. Or nothing at all. We'll figure it out together, Lily. We have time." His voice cracked. "That's the one thing we do have now. Time." Lily nodded. Time. They had time to learn how to be a family. Time for her to understand this new life. Time to grieve Emily together. But time wouldn't bring her mother back. Time wouldn't erase the 13 years they'd lost. Time wouldn't fill the hole Emily's death had left in all their hearts. A commotion downstairs interrupted Lily's thoughts. Raised voices. Someone arguing with the funeral director. Alexander's face darkened. "Stay here, I'll handle it." But Lily followed him anyway. She reached the top of the staircase just in time to see who was causing the disturbance. Alexander's mother had returned, and she wasn't alone. She'd brought lawyers, lots of them, and they were carrying briefcases and official-looking documents. "I'm contesting custody," Alexander's mother announced, her voice carrying through the mansion. "That girl is not your daughter, Alexander. You have no proof of paternity, and even if she were, Emily Hunt gave up all rights when she accepted my money and disappeared. I'm taking this to court, and I'm going to prove that child belongs in foster care, not in your home. I will not allow some gold-digging waitress's spawn to inherit the Hunt family fortune." Alexander descended the stairs slowly. Each step measured and dangerous. Get out of my house, now. This is still my house too, darling. Remember? I have legal ownership of 30%, and I'm exercising my rights. She smiled coldly. See you in court, son. May the best lawyer win. The lawyers filed out behind her, leaving folders full of documents on the entry table. Legal papers that Lily couldn't read from where she stood but could guess the contents of. Papers that would try to prove she wasn't Alexander's daughter. Papers that would try to take away her new home before she'd even had a chance to settle into it. Alexander stood in the empty foyer, his hands clenched into fists, his face a mask of rage and devastation. And Lily realized with growing horror that her nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. Alexander stood motionless in the foyer for a full minute after his mother left, staring at the legal documents scattered across the entry table like they were venomous snakes. Finally, he picked up one folder, opened it, and his face went absolutely white. His hands started shaking so badly the papers rustled like autumn leaves. No, this can't be right. She couldn't have done this. Lily descended the stairs slowly, her heart pounding. What is it? What do those papers say? Alexander looked up at her, and the devastation in his eyes made Lily's stomach drop. My mother filed these documents 3 days ago. 3 days ago, Lily. Before Emily even showed up at the mansion. Before any of us knew she was still alive. He shuffled through more papers, his voice rising with each word. She had investigators following you and Rosa. She knew Emily was dying. She knew about the hospice care. She knew everything. And she was preparing to take you away from me before I even knew you existed. Rosa appeared from Emily's room, her eyes swollen from crying. When she saw the documents, her face crumpled further. What has that witch done now? She's claiming that Emily signed away all parental rights when she took the $5 million 13 years ago. She has a contract, Rosa. A contract Emily supposedly signed giving up all claims to any child she might be carrying in exchange for the money. Alexander's voice was hollow. It's notarized. It's legal. It's enforceable. That's impossible, Rosa said, but her voice wavered. Emily would never have signed something like that. Are you sure? Alexander looked at her desperately. Are you absolutely certain? Because if she did, even if she gave the money away afterward, the contract would still be valid. My mother would have legal grounds to argue that Emily abandoned Lily, that I have no parental rights because I never legally established paternity, and that Lily should become a ward of the state. Lily felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. Ward of the state, foster care, torn away from the only family she had left just days after her mother died. She can't do that. She can't just take me away. She can try, Alexander said grimly, and with her money and connections she might succeed. The courts favor biological parents, but only if paternity is established. We'd need a DNA test, and even then, if Emily signed that contract, my mother could argue that she knowingly gave up custody and I knowingly allowed my child to grow up in poverty without support, which could be considered neglect. You didn't know, Lily's voice came out as a shriek. You didn't know I existed. How can they say you neglected me when you didn't even know about me? Because the law doesn't always care about fairness, sweetheart. It cares about documentation and proof and legal precedent. Alexander ran his hands through his hair, making it stand up in wild angles. We need to fight this. We need lawyers, good ones. We need to prove Emily never signed that contract, or that she signed it under duress, or that it's not legally binding because she was coerced. Rosa sank into a chair, looking every one of her 70 years. Emily did sign something that day. I remember because she was crying while she wrote her name, but she said it was just an acknowledgement that she'd received the money, not a custody agreement. She said your mother promised it was just a receipt for tax purposes. The words hung in the air like smoke. Emily had signed something, which meant Alexander's mother might actually have a legal leg to stand on. We're taking that DNA test today, Alexander said, pulling out his phone. Right now, I'm calling a private lab that can rush results. We'll have proof of paternity within 48 hours. That's our first line of defense. He made the call, pacing back and forth across the marble floor. Within 20 minutes, a mobile DNA testing team arrived at the mansion with their equipment. They swabbed Lily's cheek and Alexander's, labeled the samples, and promised results by Monday morning. What happens until then? Lily asked once they'd left. What if your mother tries to take me before we get the results? She won't, Alexander said with more confidence than his face showed. She's filed the paperwork, but the actual court hearing won't be for at least 2 weeks. That gives us time to build our case. Time to find evidence that Emily was coerced. Time to prove that contract isn't valid. But his mother had other plans. That evening, as they were trying to eat dinner none of them wanted, the doorbell rang. Alexander's assistant answered it and returned looking pale. Sir, there's a social worker here. She says she needs to inspect the premises and interview Lily to ensure this is a safe environment. She has a court order. Alexander's fork clattered onto his plate. What? How does she already have a court order? The hearing isn't for weeks. Emergency protective custody hearing, a new voice said from the doorway. A middle-aged woman in a business suit entered, carrying a briefcase and an official-looking badge. I'm Jennifer Martinez from Child Protective Services. I received a report that a minor child is living in this home without proper legal guardianship, and that the child's recently deceased mother was kept from proper medical care. I'm here to investigate. Kept from medical care? Rosa stood so fast her chair fell backward. I worked 3 jobs to pay for Emily's treatments. I gave everything to make sure she had the best care we could afford. Which apparently wasn't much according to the medical records I've reviewed, Ms. Martinez said, her tone professional but cold. Your daughter died of stage 4 cancer at age 36. The hospice facility reports she'd been refusing treatment for the past 6 months because she couldn't afford it. That's medical neglect, Ms. Garcia. She refused treatment because the treatments were killing her faster than the cancer. Rosa's voice broke. She wanted quality time with her daughter instead of spending her last months vomiting in a hospital bed. That was her choice, not neglect. Ms. Martinez made notes on a tablet. I'll need to speak with Lily alone. Absolutely not, Alexander said. She's 12 years old, her mother just died this morning, and you want to interrogate her without support? That's traumatic and unnecessary. It's standard procedure in custody investigations, Mr. Hunt. And given that Mrs. Hunt Sr. has raised concerns about your fitness as a guardian, specifically that you've known about this child for less than 48 hours and are already attempting to claim parental rights, I need to ensure Lily's well-being. Ms. Martinez's eyes were sharp. You can either cooperate voluntarily, or I can return with police officers and a warrant to remove Lily from the premises until the investigation is complete. The threat hung in the air. Remove Lily from the premises. Take her away to a foster home with strangers while her mother's body was barely cold. Alexander's face went through a dozen emotions before settling on forced calm. Fine, but I want our lawyer present during the interview. You have 1 hour to get a lawyer here, Ms. Martinez said. In the meantime, I'll be conducting a walkthrough of the residence. She spent the next hour examining every room in the mansion, taking photos, making notes, asking invasive questions about sleeping arrangements and supervision, and Lily's daily routine, a routine that had only existed for about 36 hours. Alexander's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Chen, arrived 45 minutes later, out of breath and carrying 3 briefcases. Don't answer anything without my approval, Patricia whispered to Lily before Ms. Martinez led them into a sitting room for the interview. The questions started simple. Name, age, date of birth, previous address. Then they got harder. Did you know your father before 2 days ago? No. Has Mr. Hunt ever provided financial support for you? He didn't know I existed until 2 days ago, Lily said, echoing what Patricia had coached her to say. But your mother knew who your father was, correct? Yes. And she chose not to tell him about you for 12 years. Why do you think that was? Lily glanced at Patricia, who nodded slightly. Because Alexander's mother threatened her. She said she'd take me away and prove my mom was crazy. She scared my mom into leaving. Ms. Martinez made more notes. Did you witness these threats? No, I was a baby. So you're repeating what you've been told by interested parties. Do you have any proof these threats occurred? Lily felt tears building. My mom wouldn't lie. She loved Alexander. She only left to protect me. Or perhaps she left because she was paid $5 million, Ms. Martinez said, her voice still professionally neutral. Records show Emily Hunt cashed a check from Victoria Hunt for that amount, on the same day she disappeared. That doesn't sound like someone who was threatened. That sounds like someone who made a business transaction. She gave that money away. Lily's voice rose despite Patricia's warning hand on her arm. She donated every penny because she didn't want anyone thinking she was after their fortune. She chose to be poor instead of keeping blood money. Can you prove that? The question hit like a slap. Could they prove it? Did Emily keep receipts from 13 years ago? Would donation records still exist? Would the charities even remember a single $5 million donation from over a decade ago? We can get documentation, Patricia said smoothly. The donations were made to registered charities, which means there are tax records. We'll have proof within the week. I'll need to see those records, Ms. Martinez said. Until then, I have concerns about the narrative being presented. A woman takes $5 million and disappears. She lives in poverty with her daughter, moving frequently, using her maiden name, never contacting the father. Then, conveniently, right before she dies, she shows up at the father's mansion to establish a connection. From an outside perspective, this could look like a deathbed attempt to secure financial support for her child. That's not what happened. Lily was crying now, unable to stop herself. My mom loved me. She loved Alexander. She gave up everything to protect me from his evil mother. Lily, calm down, Patricia said gently. But Lily couldn't calm down. Everything was falling apart. Her mother was dead. Alexander's mother was trying to take her away. This social worker was twisting everything, making Emily sound like a con artist instead of a victim. I want to speak to Alexander, Lily said. I want my father. Ms. Martinez's eyebrows rose slightly at the word father, but she made another note. We're almost finished. Just a few more questions. Have you ever been physically harmed by Mr. Hunt or Ms. Garcia? What? No, they've never hurt me. Has Mr. Hunt made any inappropriate advances or comments toward you? Lily's stomach turned. No, he's been nothing but kind. What kind of question is that? A necessary one in custody cases, Ms. Martinez said. Has Mr. Hunt attempted to influence your testimony today? Has he told you what to say or how to act? He told me to tell the truth. And what is the truth, Lily, from your perspective? Lily took a shaky breath, trying to organize her thoughts. The truth is, my mom was threatened by a rich, powerful woman who thought she wasn't good enough. The truth is, my mom spent 13 years protecting me from that woman by staying hidden. The truth is, she gave up love and money and comfort to keep me safe. The truth is, she died knowing I'd finally have a father who actually wanted me. And now that same evil woman is trying to take that away too. That's the truth. Ms. Martinez studied her for a long moment. You're very articulate for 12 years old. My mom taught me to read when I was 3. She made sure I got a good education even though we were poor. She wanted better for me. Lily wiped her eyes. Are we done now? Can I go? One last question. If you had to choose right now, today, would you want to stay here with Mr. Hunt? Or would you prefer to be placed in temporary foster care while the custody situation is resolved? I want to stay with my father, Lily said without hesitation. And my grandmother. They're my family. Ms. Martinez closed her tablet. Thank you for your cooperation, Lily. I'll be filing my report with the court by Monday. She stood to leave, and Patricia walked her out, speaking in low, urgent tones. Alexander appeared the moment they were gone, dropping to his knees in front of Lily's chair. Are you okay? What did she ask you? Did Patricia help? She asked if you hurt me, Lily said, her voice small. She asked if you've been inappropriate with me. She made it sound like Mom was a gold digger and you're some kind of predator. Alexander, what if she decides I can't stay here? What if they take me away? They won't, Alexander said fiercely. I won't let them. We'll fight this with everything we have. But his eyes told a different story. He was scared too. Scared that his mother's money and connections would win. Scared that he'd lose his daughter just days after finding her. Scared that Emily's sacrifice would be for nothing. Patricia returned, her face grim. The social worker is filing a report recommending temporary foster placement pending the custody hearing. She doesn't believe Lily is in immediate danger, but she has concerns about the stability of the situation and the lack of established legal guardianship. Can she do that? Rosa asked, her voice shaking. She can recommend it. The judge will make the final call, probably Monday morning. Patricia sat down heavily. I'm not going to lie to you. This isn't good. Victoria Hunt has been very strategic. She filed her custody petition, triggered a CPS investigation, and created doubt about Emily's motivations all within 72 hours. She's trying to overwhelm us before we can build a proper defense. So what do? Alexander asked. We get ahead of the narrative. We find those donation receipts proving Emily gave away the money. We get the DNA results proving you're Lily's biological father. We gather character witnesses who can testify about Emily's character and Victoria's manipulation. We build an airtight case showing that Lily belongs with you. Patricia pulled out a legal pad. I need names of anyone who knew Emily 13 years ago. Co-workers, friends, neighbors, anyone who can testify about her relationship with Alexander and the circumstances of her disappearance. There's me, Rosa said. I'm her mother. I know everything. Family testimony is good, but not enough. We need outside witnesses. Patricia looked at Alexander. What about staff from when you and Emily were married? Housekeepers, drivers, personal assistants? Anyone who saw how you two were together? Alexander's face fell. My mother fired everyone after Emily disappeared. She said it was a security measure, making sure no one could leak information to the press about my failed marriage. She brought in all new staff loyal to her. He paused, thinking. But wait, there was one person she couldn't fire. Marcus Webb, my driver at the time. He was technically employed by my company, not my mother. He retired 5 years ago, but he might be willing to testify. Find him, Patricia said. Find anyone who knew you and Emily together. We need to prove your relationship was real, that Emily was genuinely in love with you, that she had no financial motivation for the pregnancy. Over the next 2 days, Alexander made dozens of calls. He tracked down Marcus Webb, who remembered Emily fondly and agreed to testify about how happy Alexander had been during their marriage. He found the waitress who'd worked with Emily at the coffee shop where they met, who remembered Emily turning down wealthy customers' advances regularly because she was in love with Alexander. He located their wedding photographer, who still had the original photos showing two people completely in love, not a gold digger and her mark. Rosa spent those same 2 days going through boxes of Emily's possessions, searching for anything that might help. She found letters Emily had written but never sent to Alexander, letters full of love and longing and regret. She found a journal Emily had kept during her pregnancy, page after page of hopes and dreams for her unborn daughter. She found the donation receipts, carefully preserved in a folder labeled Proof. Receipts showing $5 million distributed to St. Jude Children's Hospital, the American Cancer Society, and various homeless shelters, all dated within 1 week of Emily's disappearance. Lily spent those 2 days in a fog, trying to process everything while planning her mother's funeral. Alexander kept asking what kind of service Emily would have wanted, but Lily barely knew. She'd known her mother for 12 years, but suddenly realized she'd known almost nothing about her past, her preferences, her dreams beyond raising Lily. The funeral was set for Sunday afternoon, a small, private service. Alexander offered to hold it at the mansion, but Rosa insisted on the community church where she'd attended for years. Emily was part of this community, Rosa said firmly. These people loved her and Lily. They deserved to say goodbye. Sunday arrived too quickly. Lily wore a black dress Alexander had bought her, the first new dress she'd ever owned. It fit perfectly, felt like silk against her skin, and cost more than her grandmother used to make in a month. She hated it. She hated everything about this new life that had come at the cost of her mother's death. The church was packed. Lily was shocked to see how many people showed up. Neighbors from their old apartment building, teachers from her school, parents of her classmates, the librarian who'd given Lily books when Rosa couldn't afford to buy them, the owner of the corner store who'd sometimes let them have bread and milk on credit when money was tight. All these people had loved Emily, had known her, had been touched by her kindness despite her poverty and illness. Alexander stood at the back of the church looking lost. These weren't his people. This wasn't his world. But when he saw Lily standing alone by the casket, he came to her side. Your mother knew a lot of people, he said softly. She helped everyone, Lily replied. Even when we had nothing, she'd share what little we had. That's who she was. The service was simple but beautiful. People shared stories about Emily's kindness, her strength, her love for her daughter. Rosa gave a eulogy that had everyone crying, talking about her baby girl who'd fought so hard and loved so much and deserved so much better than the hand life had dealt her. When it was over, when Emily's casket was lowered into the ground in the cemetery plot Rosa had bought years ago, when she thought she'd be the first to die, Lily finally broke completely. She collapsed onto the grass, sobbing, unable to stand. Alexander picked her up, held her tight, and carried her back to the car while she cried into his shoulder. At the mansion that evening, exhausted and emotionally destroyed, Lily found a letter on her bed. Her name was written on the envelope in shaky handwriting she recognized as her mother's. With trembling hands, she opened it. "My dearest Lily," it began, "if you're reading this, I'm gone. I asked the hospice nurse to make sure you got this letter after the funeral. I have so many things I want to tell you, so many words of love and advice and hope. But most importantly, I need you to know the truth about something I've kept hidden. Something that might help you fight what's coming. Your father's mother, Victoria Hunt, didn't just threaten me 13 years ago. She showed me proof of something terrible. Something she said she'd reveal if I didn't leave. Something about your father's first wife." Lily's blood ran cold. First wife? Alexander had been married before Emily? Victoria showed me documents proving that Alexander's college girlfriend, a woman named Jennifer Blake, had died under suspicious circumstances 6 months before I met Alexander. The police ruled it an accident. Jennifer supposedly fell down the stairs at the Hunt family estate during a party. But Victoria admitted to me that it wasn't an accident. She said Jennifer had been pregnant with Alexander's child, that she was a nobody like me, and that she'd taken care of the problem. She said she'd killed Jennifer rather than let her trap Alexander with a baby, and she'd do the same to me if I didn't disappear. She showed me her personal assistant's confession, signed and dated, admitting to pushing Jennifer down those stairs on Victoria's orders. But she said she had enough power and money to make sure that confession would never see daylight unless I forced her hand. The letter shook in Lily's hands. Alexander's mother was a murderer, she'd killed someone, and Emily had kept this secret for 13 years? I didn't know if she was telling the truth or if it was an elaborate lie to scare me, the letter continued, but I couldn't risk it, Lily. I couldn't risk you. So I took the money, donated it all to prove I wasn't after their fortune, and I disappeared. I kept that confession hidden, even though it could have helped me because I was terrified that if I used it, Victoria would follow through on her threats. But now I'm dying, and you need protection. The confession is in safety deposit box 847 at First National Bank. The key is taped to the back of the photograph of you that I always kept by my bed, the one of you on your 5th birthday. Use it, baby. Use it to protect yourself from that monster. Don't let her take you away from your father. He's a good man who was manipulated by an evil woman. Save him. Save yourself. Save your future. I love you forever and always, Mom. Lily's hands shook so badly she dropped the letter. A confession. Proof that Victoria Hunt had killed someone. Evidence that could destroy her. She ran from her room, taking the stairs 2 at a time, nearly falling in her hurry. "Alexander! Alexander, where are you?" He emerged from his office, alarmed. "Lily, what's wrong? What happened?" "Your mother killed your first girlfriend." The words tumbled out in a rush. Emily knew. She had proof. There's a confession in a safety deposit box. Your mother is a murderer. Alexander's face went absolutely white. He swayed on his feet, gripping the doorframe. "What are you talking about? What first girlfriend?" "Jennifer Blake. Your mother killed her because she was pregnant." Lily thrust the letter at him. "Read it." "Mom wrote everything down." Alexander took the letter with shaking hands. As he read, his face transformed through shock, horror, denial, and finally devastating understanding. "Jenny," he whispered. "Oh God, Jenny. She said it was an accident. She said Jenny was drunk and fell. She said, oh God, she killed her. My mother killed her." He sank to the floor right there in the hallway, the letter crumpled in his fist. Jenny was pregnant? She was going to have my baby and my mother. My mother? He couldn't finish the sentence. He just sat there, broken, as the truth rewrote his entire understanding of his life. Rosa appeared, drawn by the commotion. When she saw Alexander on the floor and read the letter Lily handed her face hardened into something fierce and terrible. "We're taking that woman down, once and for all. We're going to get that confession and we're going to destroy her." "We need the key," Lily said. "Mom said it's taped to the back of her birthday photo of me, the one from when I was 5. Do you know where that is?" "It's in her room," Rosa said. "In the frame on her nightstand. I'll get it." She returned moments later with the small silver frame. Sure enough, taped to the backing was a tiny brass key with First National Bank engraved on the side. "We go first thing Monday morning," Alexander said, finally finding his voice again. His eyes were red, but his jaw was set with determination. "We get that confession. We take it straight to the police. And we make sure my mother pays for what she did. To Jenny. To Emily. To all of us." But Monday morning brought a new disaster. Alexander's phone rang at 6 a.m. It was Patricia, the lawyer, and her voice was urgent. "Don't go to that bank. Victoria must have found out about the confession. She's filed an emergency injunction preventing you from accessing any safety deposit boxes registered under Emily Hunt's name. The hearing is this morning at 9 a.m. If we don't stop this, you'll be locked out of that box indefinitely while the investigation proceeds." "How did she know about the box?" Alexander demanded. "How did she know?" "I don't know, but she's gotten ahead of us again." Patricia sounded frustrated. "Get to the courthouse. We need to fight this injunction." They arrived at the courthouse at 8:30, only to find Victoria already there with her team of lawyers. She looked perfectly composed in a designer suit, her makeup flawless, her expression coldly triumphant. "Hello, darling," she said to Alexander as they passed in the hallway. "I hope you enjoyed your brief fantasy of playing Happy Family. It ends today." "You killed Jenny," Alexander said, his voice low and dangerous. "You murdered an innocent woman and her unborn child." Victoria's smile never wavered. "Prove it." "We will. Emily left evidence. A confession from your assistant." "You mean Sarah Mitchell, my former assistant who died in a car accident 7 years ago?" Victoria's eyes glittered. "Such a tragedy. She was driving drunk, lost control on a mountain road, went right over the cliff. The police found her body 3 days later. Of course, they never found that supposed confession you're talking about, probably because it never existed. You can't submit evidence from a dead woman who can't verify its authenticity." Alexander lunged at his mother, but security guards grabbed him before he could reach her. Rosa pulled Lily back, shielding her from the scene. Patricia was shouting something about inappropriate contact and restraining orders. The courthouse erupted into chaos. Lawyers yelled. Guards wrestled Alexander toward a holding room. Victoria stood in the center of it all, calm and composed, watching her son being dragged away. And Lily realized with sinking horror that they were losing. Victoria had thought of everything. She'd killed her assistant to eliminate the witness. She'd gotten ahead of them on the safety deposit box. She'd manipulated the system to make them look unstable and dangerous, while she appeared reasonable and concerned. This wasn't just a custody battle. This was war. And Victoria Hunt had been fighting it for years while they'd only just realized they were under attack. The judge called the hearing to order. Alexander was released from the holding room with a stern warning about courtroom behavior. The arguments began about the safety deposit box and whether Victoria had standing to prevent access to Emily's property. Patricia argued passionately that Emily's belongings should pass to her daughter and mother, not be locked away on the petition of someone with no legal relationship to the deceased. Victoria's lawyers argued that if the box contained evidence related to an ongoing custody dispute, it should be sealed pending the resolution of that dispute to prevent tampering or destruction of documents. The judge, an older man with tired eyes, listened to both sides. Then he made his ruling. Given the extraordinary circumstances of this case, I'm ordering that the safety deposit box remain sealed until the primary custody hearing in 2 weeks. At that time, its contents can be examined as part of the evidence submitted to the court. Until then, no one, not the family, not Mrs. Victoria Hunt, not anyone, will have access to that box. Court officers will secure it today. Patricia tried to object, But the judge had already moved on to the next matter: Victoria's custody petition and the CPS investigation. Ms. Martinez presented her report, which was damning. She noted the lack of established paternity, the suspicious timing of Emily's reappearance, the allegations of threats that couldn't be verified, and most importantly, her concern about Lily's emotional stability being further damaged by remaining in a household with active litigation and family conflict. "I recommend temporary foster placement," Ms. Martinez said, "just until the custody situation is resolved and Mr. Hunt can legally establish his rights as Lily's father. It's in the child's best interest to be removed from this volatile situation." "No!" Lily jumped to her feet before anyone could stop her. "No, you can't take me away. Alexander is my father. This is my home." The judge's gavel came down. "Young lady, sit down. Outbursts like that only support Ms. Martinez's concerns about your emotional state." "But he's my father." Lily was crying now, desperate. "The DNA test will prove it. It'll prove I belong with him." "The DNA test results aren't available yet," the judge said. "And even when they are, biological parentage doesn't automatically grant custody rights when those rights were never established. Mr. Hunt has no legal standing as your guardian at this time." "Then give him legal standing," Lily shouted. "Let him be my guardian. Don't send me away to strangers." Patricia grabbed Lily's arm, trying to quiet her, but the damage was done. The judge looked at Lily with something like pity, which was somehow worse than anger. "Based on the evidence presented and Ms. Martinez's recommendation, I'm ordering temporary foster placement for Lily Garcia, effective immediately, pending the outcome of the custody hearing in 2 weeks. Lily will be placed with an approved foster family where she can have stability and distance from this family conflict. Supervised visitation with Mr. Hunt and Ms. Rosa Garcia will be allowed twice weekly for 2 hours per visit." The gavel came down again, and Lily's world shattered. "No," she whispered. "No, please, don't do this." But 2 social workers were already approaching. They spoke in soft, kind voices about how this was temporary, how it was for her own good, how she'd be with a nice family who'd take good care of her. Alexander was on his feet, arguing with Patricia and the judge, his voice breaking as he begged for more time, for the DNA results, for anything that would keep his daughter with him. Rosa was crying, reaching for Lily, but the social workers were gently but firmly guiding Lily toward the courtroom doors. "Dad!" Lily screamed, using the word for the first time, and it broke something in Alexander. He pushed past the lawyers, past the security guards, and pulled Lily into his arms. "I will fix this," he promised, his voice fierce through his tears. "I swear to you, Lily, I will fix this. 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, and I'll bring you home, I promise." But the guards were pulling him away. The social workers were taking Lily. Rosa was sobbing. Patricia was shouting about appeals and emergency motions. And Victoria Hunt stood in the back of the courtroom, smiling that cold, triumphant smile, watching her son's heart break all over again. Lily was led out of the courthouse and placed in a car. As they drove away, she looked back through the rear window to see Alexander standing on the courthouse steps, Rosa beside him, both of them watching helplessly as she disappeared. She'd lost her mother 3 days ago. Now she'd lost her father and grandmother too, and Victoria Hunt had won. The foster home they took her to was nice. Too nice. Clean and organized with matching furniture and photos of smiling foster children on the walls. The couple who ran it, the Johnsons, were kind and soft-spoken and professional. They showed Lily to a bedroom she'd share with 2 other girls. They explained the house rules. They offered her dinner, which she couldn't eat. They gave her pajamas and toiletries and told her everything would be okay. But nothing was okay. Lily lay in the unfamiliar bed that night, staring at the ceiling, and realized that Alexander's mother had planned this perfectly. By the time the custody hearing happened in 2 weeks, Lily would have been in foster care long enough that a judge might decide it was better to leave her there, in a stable environment, rather than move her again to a home with ongoing family drama. Victoria was going to win. She was going to keep Lily away from Alexander permanently, and there was nothing any of them could do about it. Unless Lily sat up in bed as an idea formed. A terrible, risky, possibly stupid idea. But it was the only idea she had. She needed to get to that safety deposit box before the court did. She needed to get that confession, and she needed to do it in a way that couldn't be traced back to Alexander or Rosa, so they wouldn't get in trouble for violating the judge's order. She needed to break into a bank. A 12-year-old girl needed to break into a bank, steal evidence from a sealed safety deposit box, and somehow get it to the police before Victoria could stop her. It was impossible, but Emily had done impossible things. She'd survived for years with terminal cancer to be with her daughter. She'd given up $5 million to prove her love was real. She'd hidden from a murderer for 13 years to protect her baby. If her mother could do all that, Lily could break into one bank. She just needed a plan, and help, and a miracle. But first, she needed to escape from this foster home. Lily lay back down, her mind racing with half-formed schemes and desperate hopes. Tomorrow was Tuesday. The custody hearing was in 13 days. The clock was ticking. And somewhere across town, Victoria Hunt was probably sleeping peacefully, confident in her victory, unaware that the daughter of the woman she'd terrorized was about to become her worst nightmare. Lily waited until the foster home was completely silent. The Johnsons had checked on her at 10 o'clock, then again at 11. By midnight, she heard their bedroom door close, and the house settled into the quiet sounds of sleep. The two other girls sharing her room were both fast asleep, one of them snoring softly. Lily slipped out of bed, already wearing her clothes under the pajamas they'd given her. She grabbed the small backpack they'd provided for her belongings and moved toward the window. The foster home was on the second floor, but there was a tree close enough that she could reach it if she was brave enough to jump. Emily had always told her she was brave. Time to prove it. She opened the window as quietly as possible, testing the screen. It popped out easily, probably removed and replaced by other foster kids attempting the same escape over the years. The jump to the tree branch looked terrifyingly far, but Lily didn't let herself think about it. She climbed onto the windowsill, said a quick prayer, and leaped. Her hands caught the branch and her body slammed against the trunk, knocking the wind out of her. She hung there for a moment, gasping, then carefully climbed down. Her feet hit grass and she ran, not looking back, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. She had no plan beyond getting to the bank, no idea how to actually break in, no clue what she'd do if she got caught. But she had her mother's key burning in her pocket, and a determination that felt like fire in her chest. The bank was downtown, about 3 miles from the foster home. Lily ran until her lungs burned, then walked fast, then ran again. The streets were mostly empty at this time of night, just a few cars and the occasional person walking a dog. No one paid attention to a 12-year-old girl alone in the dark, or if they did, they didn't care enough to stop her. She reached First National Bank at 1:15 in the morning. The building was dark, closed, obviously locked. Security cameras watched every entrance. Lily's confidence wavered. What had she been thinking? She couldn't break into a bank. She was 12 years old. She'd watched too many movies and thought real life worked the same way. She was about to turn around, accept defeat, and figure out how to get back to the foster home before anyone noticed she was gone, when she saw something. A maintenance worker was emptying trash from the office building next door. He propped open a side door with a garbage can while he went back inside for another load. Lily didn't think. She just moved. She slipped through that door and found herself in a bland office building hallway. But these older downtown buildings shared connected basements for utilities and maintenance. Her mother had once worked in a building like this and had told her about the tunnels. If she could find the basement, maybe she could find a way into the bank. She took the stairs down, moving quietly, listening for any sound that might mean security or janitors. The basement was exactly what she'd hoped for, a maze of corridors connecting multiple buildings, pipes running along the ceiling, dim lighting, and no cameras that she could see. She followed the corridor that seemed to run in the direction of the bank, trying doors as she went. Most were locked. Then she found one that opened. Inside was a utility room with electrical panels and what looked like a maintenance access to the building next door. The bank. Lily squeezed through the narrow passage, emerged in another utility room, and found stairs leading up. Her hands were shaking as she climbed. She was actually inside the bank. She'd actually made it this far. Now she just needed to find the safety deposit boxes without triggering any alarms or running into security guards. The stairs led to a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." She tried the handle, locked, obviously, but it was an old building with old locks, and Lily had watched enough of Rosa trying to pick their apartment lock when she forgot keys that she understood the basic concept. She pulled a bobby pin from her hair, bent it, and started working the lock. It took 15 minutes and her fingers were cramping by the time she heard the click. The door opened. She was in a back hallway of the bank, away from the main floor where tellers worked during business hours. Signs on the walls directed her toward safety deposit boxes, lower level. Lily followed the signs, her heart racing, expecting alarms to start blaring any second. But the bank stayed quiet. Apparently, their security was focused on the vault and ATMs, not on the safety deposit room. She found the stairs leading down to the lower level and descended into a room lined with small metal doors, each with a number. Box 847 was in the back corner. Lily approached it like it might explode. She pulled out her mother's key with trembling hands. Most safety deposit boxes required two keys, one held by the customer, one held by the bank. But when she inserted Emily's key and turned it, something clicked. The door swung open. Apparently, Emily had convinced someone to give her both keys, or had picked the bank's lock herself, or had found some other way around the system. Inside the box was a manila envelope, thick with papers. Lily grabbed it, shoved it in her backpack, and was about to close the door when she noticed something else. A smaller envelope with Alexander's name written on it in Emily's handwriting. Lily took that too. Then she closed the box, locked it, and ran back the way she'd come. Getting out was easier than getting in. She retraced her steps through the basement tunnels, emerged in the office building next door, and slipped out through the same maintenance door she'd used to enter. The maintenance worker was gone, the door still propped open with the trash can. Lily hit the street and ran like her life depended on it, because maybe it did. She made it 3 blocks before she heard sirens. Police cars screamed past her toward the bank. Someone had noticed her after all, or triggered a silent alarm, or maybe security had been watching the whole time and called the cops. Lily ducked into an alley, pressed herself against a wall, and waited. The police cars passed. The sirens faded. She was okay. For now. But she couldn't go back to the foster home. They'd find her window open, realize she'd escaped, probably call the police. She couldn't go to Alexander's mansion. That would be the first place they'd look, and it would get him in trouble for violating the court order. She couldn't go to anyone connected to her family. So, where could she go? The answer came to her like Emily's voice whispering in her ear. The church. The community church where they'd held the funeral. Churches stayed open, or at least unlocked, for people who needed sanctuary. And the pastor, Reverend Matthews, had been kind to Emily over the years. He'd helped when Rosa couldn't pay rent. He'd visited Emily in the hospital. He'd eulogized her with tears in his eyes. Maybe he'd help Lily now. She changed direction, heading toward the church. It took another 40 minutes of walking, her legs aching, her lungs burning. Dawn was starting to lighten the sky when she finally reached the small building with its modest steeple and worn steps. The front door was unlocked. Lily slipped inside, into the quiet darkness that smelled like old wood and candle wax. She collapsed into a back pew, exhausted, terrified, but triumphant. She'd done it. She'd gotten the confession. Now she just needed to figure out what to do with it. She pulled the manila envelope from her backpack and opened it with shaking hands. Inside were dozens of pages. A signed confession from Sarah Mitchell, Victoria Hunt's former personal assistant, admitting to pushing Jennifer Blake down the stairs on Victoria's orders. Photos of the scene, of Jennifer's body, of the stairs. Police reports that had ruled it an accident, medical examiner's notes. And most damning of all, bank records showing a payment of $2 million from Victoria Hunt to Sarah Mitchell 1 week after Jennifer's death. Emily had been thorough. She'd kept everything. She'd built an entire case against Victoria, then hidden it away for 13 years, waiting for the right moment to use it. That moment was now. Lily pulled out the smaller envelope with Alexander's name on it. Inside was a letter and a USB drive. "My love," the letter began in Emily's shaky handwriting. "If you're reading this, then Lily has done something brave and probably stupid to get you this evidence. Don't be angry with her. She gets her stubbornness from both of us. This USB drive contains video footage from the night Jennifer died. Your mother's security cameras captured everything, but she had the footage erased from the main system. What she didn't know is that I made a copy before I left. I broke into the security office the night after she threatened me, downloaded everything, and hid it. On this drive, you'll see Sarah Mitchell pushing Jennifer. You'll hear Victoria giving the order over a phone call that was accidentally recorded by the security system. You'll have proof, real proof, not just a confession that can be disputed. Use it, Alexander. Destroy your mother before she destroys anyone else. Save our daughter. Save yourself. I love you. I've always loved you. I never stopped, not for a single day of the 13 years we were apart. Emily. Lily pressed the letter to her chest, crying again, missing her mother with an ache that felt like it would never heal. Then she heard footsteps. She looked up to see Reverend Matthews entering through a side door, carrying his morning coffee, probably arriving early to prepare for the day. He saw Lily and stopped. Child? Lily Garcia? What are you doing here at 5 in the morning? His voice was kind but concerned. I need help, Lily said, her voice breaking. I need to get this evidence to the police, and I need to do it in a way that saves my family. Please, Reverend Matthews. My mom always said you were a good man. Please help me. The Reverend set down his coffee and approached slowly, like she was a frightened animal that might bolt. What evidence? What's going on? Does your grandmother know where you are? No one knows where I am. I escaped from foster care. I broke into a bank. I stole a confession from a safety deposit box that proves Alexander's mother is a murderer. The words tumbled out in a rush. And I need an adult to help me give this to the police, because if I try to do it myself, they'll just arrest me and send me back to foster care, and Victoria will destroy the evidence and win. Reverend Matthews stared at her for a long moment. Then he sat down in the pew beside her. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. So Lily did. She told him about finding the photo in Alexander's mansion, about Emily appearing and dying, about Victoria's threats and manipulation and the custody battle. She told him about the confession and Jennifer Blake's murder and the USB drive with video evidence. She told him everything while the sun rose outside the church windows and the world woke up around them. When she finished, Reverend Matthews was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone. I'm going to call someone. A detective I know. Someone who's honest and won't be influenced by the Hunt family money. We're going to do this right, Lily. We're going to make sure this evidence is submitted properly and legally so it can't be thrown out or dismissed. He made the call. Within an hour, Detective Sarah Wilson arrived at the church. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a kind smile. Lily told her story again while Reverend Matthews sat beside her, a supportive hand on her shoulder. Detective Wilson examined the confession, the bank records, the photos. Then she looked at the USB drive. If what you're saying is true, if this drive contains video evidence of a murder, then we need to view it immediately. But I need to make sure this evidence was obtained legally. How did you get into that safety deposit box? Lily's heart sank. She hadn't thought about that part. I broke in, I picked locks, I trespassed, but the box belonged to my mother, and I'm her daughter, so doesn't that mean I have a right to her property? Technically you do, but there's a court order sealing that box. Detective Wilson sighed. This is complicated. Victoria Hunt could argue the evidence was obtained illegally and have it thrown out. What if she didn't break in? Reverend Matthews said suddenly. What if someone who did have legal access to the box obtained the contents and gave them to Lily? Who would have legal access at this point? Detective Wilson asked. Emily Hunt's lawyer, the Reverend said. If Emily had a lawyer who was acting as executor of her estate, that person could access the box legally, court order or not, because they'd be fulfilling their duties as executor. And if that lawyer chose to turn over evidence of a crime to the police, well, that's their legal obligation. Lily's eyes widened. Mom did have a lawyer. She told Grandma Rosa about him a few days before she died. She said she'd made a will, leaving everything to me and naming someone as executor. His name is in her papers at the mansion. Detective Wilson's expression shifted to something like hope. If we can get that lawyer's name and verify he's the legal executor, and if he's willing to testify that he obtained these items from the safety deposit box and turned them over to law enforcement, then the evidence would be legally admissible. I'll call Alexander, Lily said, pulling out a thought. Wait, I don't have a phone. They took my phone. Reverend Matthews handed her his. Call your father. Lily dialed the number she'd memorized. Alexander answered on the first ring, his voice desperate. Hello, who is this? It's me, it's Lily. I'm at the church with Reverend Matthews and a detective, and I need Mom's lawyer's name right now. Lily? Oh my God, Lily, where have you been? The foster home called 3 hours ago saying you escaped. There are police looking everywhere for you. Rosa and I have been losing our minds. Dad, I need the lawyer's name. Emily's executor. Do you know who it is? What? Why? Lily, you need to come home. You need to… Dad. Lily's voice cracked. I got the confession. I got the USB drive. I have everything we need to destroy your mother, but we need Emily's lawyer to make it legal. Please. Do you know his name? Silence. Then Alexander's voice, thick with emotion. Thomas Richardson. He's at Richardson and Associates downtown. He came to see Emily in hospice a few days before she died. She had him draw up a will. Lily, did you really break into the bank? Yes, I'm sorry. I know it was stupid and dangerous, but I had to do something. I couldn't just sit in that foster home while Victoria won. You're grounded for life, Alexander said, but he was laughing and crying at the same time. You're the bravest, most terrifying child I've ever known, just like your mother. Detective Wilson took the phone from Lily. Mr. Hunt, this is Detective Sarah Wilson. I need you to contact Thomas Richardson immediately and have him meet us at the police station within the hour. Tell him to bring documentation proving he's executor of Emily Hunt's estate. We're going to do this right. She hung up and looked at Lily. You should know that you're probably going to face consequences for escaping foster care and breaking into that bank. But given the circumstances, I'm going to do everything I can to minimize those consequences. What you did was illegal, but it was also incredibly brave. Your mother would be proud. Lily nodded, too exhausted and emotionally overwhelmed to speak. An hour later, they were all at the police station. Thomas Richardson arrived with his briefcase full of documents proving Emily had named him executor of her will and given him explicit permission to access all her property, including the safety deposit box. He signed a statement saying he'd obtained the contents legally in fulfillment of his duties and had turned them over to law enforcement upon discovering they contained evidence of a crime. It was a lie, technically. But it was a lie that made the evidence legal and admissible. The detective inserted the USB drive into a computer. Everyone gathered around to watch. The video footage began playing. It was grainy security camera footage from 13 years ago, but the images were clear enough. Jennifer Blake, young and pretty and visibly pregnant, walking through the Hunt mansion toward the main staircase. Victoria Hunt's voice over a phone call, captured by accident when someone had left a security office phone off the hook. She won't leave voluntarily. You know what needs to be done, Sarah. Make it look like an accident. I want her gone before Alexander comes home. Then Sarah Mitchell, Victoria's assistant, approaching Jennifer at the top of the stairs. Jennifer turning, recognizing her, starting to smile. Sarah's hands coming up, shoving hard. Jennifer's expression changing from friendly to shocked to terrified as she fell backward. Her body tumbling down the marble stairs. The sickening crack when she hit the bottom and didn't move. Sarah checking for a pulse, then calmly pulling out her phone to call Victoria. It's done. She fell. No one saw. The video continued, showing Victoria arriving at the mansion 30 minutes later. Showing her standing over Jennifer's body with no expression at all. Showing her instructing Sarah to call the police and report a tragic accident. Showing her placing a wine bottle near Jennifer's body to make it look like she'd been drinking. The room was silent when the video ended. Detective Wilson's face was pale but determined. That's murder. That's conspiracy to commit murder. That's evidence tampering. That's enough to put Victoria Hunt away for life. She looked at Thomas Richardson. I need you to make a formal statement about how you came into possession of this evidence. I need every document proving Emily Hunt's suspicions and her right to have this footage. We're going to build an airtight case. What about Lily? Reverend Matthews asked. She's still technically a runaway from foster care. She's a material witness in a murder investigation, Detective Wilson said. I'm taking her into protective custody for her own safety. Victoria Hunt has already proven she's willing to kill to protect her secrets. I'm not putting this child back in foster care where Victoria might be able to get to her. She stays with police protection until we make an arrest. Can she see her father? Lily asked quietly. Can Alexander come here? He's already on his way, Detective Wilson said. I had dispatch call him. He should be here any minute. As if summoned, Alexander burst through the police station doors with Rosa right behind him. He saw Lily and crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms and holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Don't you ever scare me like that again, he said into her hair. Don't you ever put yourself in danger like that. I can't lose you too. I can't lose you like I lost your mother. I had to, Lily whispered. I had to save us. I know, Alexander pulled back to look at her face. And you did. You saved all of us, sweetheart. You're a hero. Rosa was crying, hugging them both, murmuring prayers of thanks in Spanish. The 3 of them stood there in the middle of the police station, clinging to each other while Detective Wilson organized the biggest arrest of her career. Within 2 hours, a team of officers descended on the Hunt family estate with a warrant. Victoria was arrested in her own mansion, still in her designer robe, her face finally showing shock instead of cold composure. She was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, and about a dozen other crimes. The news spread like wildfire. By noon, every television station in the city was broadcasting footage of Victoria Hunt being led to a police car in handcuffs. By evening, the story had gone national. Billionaire philanthropist revealed to be cold-blooded killer. High society matriarch arrested for murder. The Hunt family empire crumbled. Alexander immediately stepped down from all positions in family businesses that his mother had controlled. He released a statement condemning her actions, expressing sympathy for Jennifer Blake's family, and promising full cooperation with law enforcement. He also announced he was establishing the Emily Hunt Foundation, dedicated to helping single mothers with terminal illnesses get the medical care and financial support they needed. The custody hearing that had been scheduled for 2 weeks away was canceled. Ms. Martinez withdrew her recommendation for foster placement. The judge who'd ordered Lily removed from Alexander's home issued a formal apology, admitted he'd been influenced by Victoria's reputation and connections, and fast-tracked Alexander's petition for guardianship. 3 days after Victoria's arrest, Alexander officially became Lily's legal guardian. Rosa moved into the mansion permanently. And for the first time since that afternoon when Lily had chased her grandmother's scarf through an open gate, they could finally breathe. But the fight wasn't quite over. Victoria's lawyers mounted an aggressive defense. They claimed the video was doctored, that Emily had manufactured evidence out of revenge, that Sarah Mitchell's confession was false. They tried to have everything thrown out on technicalities. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Lily had to testify about how she'd obtained the evidence, and Victoria's lawyers tried to paint her as a troubled child who'd broken into a bank and stolen documents to help her father. But the jury saw through it. They saw a 12-year-old girl who'd lost her mother and fought desperately to protect her family from a woman who'd already killed once. They saw video evidence that digital forensics experts confirmed was authentic and unaltered. They saw bank records proving Victoria had paid Sarah Mitchell $2 million right after Jennifer's death. They saw 13 years of cover-up and lies and manipulation. The verdict came back guilty on all counts. Victoria Hunt was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. She was 68 years old. She'd spend the rest of her life behind bars. As she was led out of the courtroom, she looked at Alexander one last time. I did everything for you, she said. Everything I did was to protect you. To protect our family legacy. You murdered an innocent woman and her unborn child, Alexander replied, his voice steady. You threatened and terrorized the woman I loved. You stole 13 years of my life with my daughter. You destroyed Emily's life. That's not protection. That's evil. And I hope you spend every day of the rest of your life understanding what you really are. Victoria was led away. She never spoke to Alexander again. In the months that followed, life slowly found a new normal. Lily enrolled in a good school where she made friends who knew nothing about her dramatic story. Alexander worked on rebuilding the Hunt family businesses with ethics and transparency his mother had never practiced. Rosa planted a garden at the mansion, filling it with lilies in memory of Emily. They visited Emily's grave every Sunday, bringing fresh flowers and telling her about their week. They cried less and laughed more as time passed. The grief didn't disappear, but it transformed into something they could carry instead of something that crushed them. On what would have been Emily's 37th birthday, they held a celebration at the church. All the people who'd loved her came. Neighbors, teachers, librarians, store owners, everyone who'd been touched by her kindness. Alexander gave a speech about the woman who'd loved him despite his family's cruelty, who'd protected their daughter at the cost of her own happiness, who'd proven that real wealth had nothing to do with money and everything to do with love. Then Lily stood up to speak. She was 13 now, taller and stronger than she'd been a year ago. She'd lived in the mansion for months but still kept her mother's old belongings in her room. The worn books, the cheap jewelry, the photographs that captured a life of poverty lived with grace and dignity. "My mom taught me that being rich isn't about how much money you have," Lily said, her voice clear and strong. "It's about how much love you give. She was the richest person I've ever known, even when we had nothing. And everything I am, everything I'll ever be, I owe to her." The church erupted in applause. Alexander put his arm around Rosa, and they both wiped away tears. After the celebration, as they drove back to the mansion, Lily looked out the window at the city she'd once explored on foot because they couldn't afford bus fare. Now she rode in a car that cost more than most people made in a year. She had a closet full of new clothes, a room bigger than her old apartment, and a father who'd give her anything she asked for. But the things she valued most couldn't be bought. The memory of her mother's love, the strength of her grandmother's sacrifice, the chance to know her father, the knowledge that she came from people who chose kindness over cruelty, love over power, sacrifice over selfishness. "What are you thinking about?" Alexander asked, noticing her quiet reflection. "I'm thinking about what Mom said in her letter," Lily replied, "about doing something important with my life, something that matters, something that helps people." "You have plenty of time to figure that out," Alexander said. "You're only 13. "I already know what I want to do," Lily said. "I want to be a lawyer. I want to help people like Mom. People who get threatened by powerful people who think they can do whatever they want. I want to make sure that what happened to Mom and Jennifer never happens to anyone else." Alexander smiled, though his eyes were wet. "Your mother would love that. She'd be so proud of you." "She'd be proud of you too," Lily said. "You stood up to your mother. You chose us over everything she'd taught you to value. That took courage." "I learned from the best," Alexander replied. "Emily showed me what real courage looks like, and so did you, when you broke into that bank." "I thought you said I was grounded for life for that," Lily teased. "You are," Alexander said seriously. "But you're also a hero. Both things can be true." They pulled through the gates of the mansion, the place that had once seemed so foreign and intimidating, but now felt like home. Rosa was waiting on the steps, waving as they approached. The evening sun painted everything gold. Inside, they had dinner together like they did every night. Simple food despite their wealth, because Emily had taught them that fancy meals meant nothing compared to time spent with people you loved. They talked and laughed and shared stories. They remembered Emily not just with sadness but with joy, celebrating the life she'd lived and the legacy she'd left. Later that night, after Rosa had gone to bed and Alexander was working in his office, Lily stood in her room looking at the photograph of her mother, the one that had been in the silver frame with the key taped behind it. Emily smiled out at her from the faded image, young and healthy and full of hope. "I did it, Mom," Lily whispered. "I saved Dad. I destroyed Victoria. I protected our family just like you protected me. And I promise I'll keep making you proud. I'll do something important with my life. I'll help people. I'll be the person you raised me to be." She could almost hear Emily's voice in response, warm and loving and proud. "You already are, baby. You already are." Lily smiled, kissed the photograph, and set it back on her nightstand. Tomorrow, she'd wake up and go to school and live the normal life of a 13-year-old. But she'd carry her mother's strength with her always, a gift more valuable than any inheritance, a legacy of love that no amount of cruelty or power or money could ever destroy. Because in the end, Emily had won. She'd protected her daughter. She'd found justice for Jennifer. She'd reunited a family. And she'd proven that sometimes the poorest people are the richest of all, because they understand what truly matters: love, sacrifice, courage, kindness. Those were Emily Hunt's gifts to the world. And in her daughter Lily, in the foundation Alexander built in her name, in the lives they'd all touch going forward, those gifts would continue giving forever. The photo in the mansion that had started everything still sat on Alexander's mantelpiece, but now it was surrounded by new photos: Lily's school pictures, family portraits, snapshots of happy moments. The past and the present living together, honoring what had been lost while celebrating what had been found. And somewhere, maybe, Emily was watching and smiling, finally at peace, knowing her baby girl was safe and loved and home at last. The end.